Hey, Brian, thank you.
Sure.
I was listening to your show yesterday and, today, and I heard you say yesterday you something to the effect of, like, you didn't really know why Kamala didn't get all the votes that Biden got in 2020. And, what I have to say to that is, if anybody could have easily seen the signs that she was going to get obliterated in this election like she did, if you just looked at it objectively. I mean, she ran a terrible campaign. Democrats like to say she ran a great campaign, but her campaign was horrific. And the evidence is there in the fact that she got slaughtered. And it's not like Trump gained all these new voters. It's that she lost a ton of them because people had no faith in her because they were so pissed off for the last 4 years. And with Don Lemon saying, well, the economy's great and everything, a good economy sells itself. You don't have to sell that to people. People know when they have money in their pocket.
Okay, so David, let me respond to what you just said, and let's have a conversation. We have a right to disagree with each other. It doesn't matter how people feel about something. What matters are the facts, right? I'll even take a page from Ben Shapiro. Facts don't care about your feelings. I'm sure there are a lot of people in this country that are struggling, and I feel for them. I do. But the proof is in the pudding. It's not my fault that so many of these people are uneducated or ill-informed on the issues. I'm sure some of them are struggling, but it's not because of Joe Biden. Inflation is under 3%. We have records with NASDAQ. We have records when it comes to unemployment, black unemployment, employment at 4%, black unemployment at 5.4%. So I don't discount the fact that there are people in this country that are struggling. There are always going to be people in this country that are struggling. But this economy...
But now they're struggling more than they've been, and they're struggling to the point where...
Where are you getting that information from? They're struggling more than they've been. What stat proves that?
Well, the fact that a new car costs almost $50,000, a house is over $400,000 on average.
What?
People don't
the average
money.
price of a new car is not $50,000. I don't know where you're getting.
It's almost 50.
Where are you getting that?
For a new car.
Okay, there are plenty of new
Google
cars.
Any sort of.
Okay, that's not the
average price of a new car.
That's not the average price of a new car. All right, well, we can look that up. But okay, so you're claiming because the average price of a new car is more expensive, that somehow the economy is terrible?
People can't afford anything.
Inflation is under 3%. What are you talking about?
Only after it skyrocketed. Yeah,
and
went
why?
down, but the
and
prices
why did
never went down.
So that was Joe Biden's policies that had nothing to do with COVID and coming out of a global pandemic?
It did. I'm not saying that it's not. I'm not saying that it's Biden's fault. What I'm saying is, Biden and Harris, what they should have done was they should have said, hey, we recognize this economy is still very painful. But instead they said Bidenomics is working.
Kamala Harris is
transitory.
David, I can only speak
and
for
it didn't work.
David, I can only speak for myself. You're mistaken. I've seen 3 Kamala Harris rallies. I'll explain to you. I've seen 3 Kamala Harris rallies in Las Vegas alone in the last several months. And never did I listen in any of those rallies to what you're pertaining to what she said. In fact, she said the opposite. She was empathetic with people and said, listen, I know there are people out there struggling.
I know why.
Okay, well,
I can tell you why, because
you just said the opposite like 30 seconds ago.
Well, here's why. Because once they realized that the whole "hey, everything's great" routine isn't working, they had to peel that back, and they're like, wait a second, we're going to lose to Trump. We need to actually be honest with people and tell them that they're struggling. But it was too little, too late. And look, it's not like those 14 million votes that Kamala didn't get from Biden. It's not like those voters moved out of the country or they became MAGA voters. They just didn't vote because they didn't have confidence in her. It has nothing to do with her being a woman. It has a lot to do with her being a terrible candidate. She was terrible in 2020 to the point where literally...
You think she's more of a terrible candidate, as you would put it, which, by the way, I disagree with you on, but you think she's more of a terrible candidate than Donald Trump?
Clearly she is. She didn't win.
No. So first of all, just because somebody wins or doesn't win doesn't mean that we're not all entitled to our own opinions, number one. And number two, I believe a lot of people in this country are very ill-informed and uneducated, and they buy into the nonsense. Here's the reality of the situation, David, and if you disagree with me, that's fine. You could respond to it. But here's the reality of the situation. The reality of the situation is this. The man who got reelected is a 34-count felon adjudicated rapist. The man who got reelected incited an insurrection. And Kamala Harris showed class and dignity, something that Donald Trump does not have. Now, there are a lot of people in this country that are ill-informed. That's just the bottom line. And you're laughing at that. You're laughing at it. But the fact of the matter is many Trump supporters that I speak to can't name one policy that they like. And I can tell you right now, Kamala Harris...
I agree that Trump supporters are not too terribly bright. But here's the thing. Go to... I don't mean this literally for you, but tell a prominent Democrat, go door to door and say to them, hey, what are you more concerned with, how expensive things are, or is the potential president, do they have decency? They're going to tell you they care about what's in their wallet because they have no money.
Well, guess what? If a lot of people in this country have no money, then they have to take personal responsibility, number one. Number two, I go back to facts, and it doesn't sound like you want to hear what I'm about to say when it comes to the economy. You want to talk about the average price of a car. Okay, let's talk about inflation. Let's talk about unemployment. Let's talk about manufacturing. Let's talk about the skyrocketing manufacturing jobs. Let's talk about what Joe Biden accomplished, whether it be something that Donald Trump couldn't accomplish, whether it be the bipartisan infrastructure bill. Let's talk about bipartisan gun control legislation, the most they've had in decades, the CHIPS and Science Act. I can go on and on with health care, for example. Do people care about their health care? Since you want to talk about knocking on door to door, you could say what you want about Obamacare. People could say what they want about Obamacare. But guess what? The person that they have elected, or some of these people have elected, is the guy that has no replacement plan and has concepts of a plan, and he's had 9 years to put it together. So the fact of the matter is that, yes, I stand by what I said. A lot of these people that voted for Donald Trump are ill-informed on the issues.
If Democrats want to stand by that, then they should get ready to lose 2028 because that clearly didn't sell. And they also lost to a guy. Look, Trump is not this Reagan-type guy was extremely popular. He is popular. He's also extremely polarized, and a ton of people hate him. And yet he obliterated Kamala. I mean,
and here's where I disagree.
How bad was her administration?
First of all, She doesn't have an administration. It was Joe Biden's administration. And number two, I disagree with you.
Out of the race because he was doing unbelievably bad. That's why they pulled him out.
How was Joe Biden doing unbelievably bad? Name me some policies that you think were a disaster. What did he do in his presidency that were, quote, unbelievably bad?
Okay, well, one of the things that really frustrated people was the Afghanistan withdrawal.
Which was the exact, hold on, one at a time, the exact same withdrawal that Donald Trump had, according to John Bolton, who worked in Donald Trump's administration. Number two, Donald Trump helped release 5,000 Taliban terrorists. Number three, don't you think it's important to note when you have people that worked in Donald Trump's own administration that admit that his withdrawal was just as bad, if not worse? I understand the Afghan withdrawal was terrible, but why is it? Hold on.
I agree, but
hold on. Why is it that people like you never want to bring up the fact that over 60 American soldiers died in Afghanistan, and Donald Trump didn't go to one of those funerals, but yet Donald Trump is the guy that wants to talk? And by the way, one loss is too many. But the idea that this was all Joe Biden and not Donald Trump is a lie. With all due respect, sir, it's a lie.
I didn't say it was all Joe Biden, but what I'm saying is he is the leader of, in name only, he's clearly not making any decisions, but he is the leader. He's been since he was elected, and he did such a terrible job that they actually had to pull him out of the race before he could even, see who's
so
going to win between him and Trump.
The reason why I disagree with your characterization, the reason why they pulled him out of the race, if you're referring to maybe a Nancy Pelosi, is because clearly his health his health was deteriorating. They didn't pull him out of the.
Yes,
you're wrong.
You're right.
But you're not characterizing it right. You're saying he was horrible. No, he wasn't horrible. His health was deteriorating a little bit, and I still believe that was the right decision to make. So you're mischaracterizing it as he was a horrible president, which he wasn't.
After Democrats spent years telling us, Biden's as sharp as a tack, don't worry about it, he's never been smarter. I mean, nobody believed this. They saw this guy up there who could barely string a sentence together.
First of all, it's not that he couldn't barely put a sentence together. I disagree with that characterization, number one. Number two, people that actually were friends with Joe Biden, that actually are not involved in politics from the sense of being a policymaker, some of his celebrity friends, including George Clooney, said some things that I agree with. That a year ago, 8 months ago, he was a different person than he was now. You're not a doctor. I'm not a doctor. He wasn't a horrible president. There are mistakes that Democrats made, no question about that. But for people to say...
If he was a good president, he would have won and Kamala would have won. It would have been that simple.
When I say a good president, it's different than what you assess. When I say good president, it's where the country is at statistically when it comes to the economy and many other factors. You consider somebody being, you keep saying that everybody is broke and it's not true. The economy is where it is today. Inflation is under 3%. You keep making general terms and then you keep changing what you're saying during this conversation. You're wrong. You bring up the Afghan withdrawal, same withdrawal that Donald Trump had. In fact, he negotiated with the Taliban and invited them to Camp David. You say Kamala Harris was a horrible candidate. Listen, I wish she won. Mistakes were made. But to say she's a horrible candidate, look at Donald Trump. Compared to Donald Trump, she's a woman of decency and character. She wants to give a woman the right to choose. She doesn't want to give tax breaks to the top 1%. Now, this ship has sailed. There's another administration that's going to be coming in. The problem I have with you, David, is that you say specific things like Joe Biden was horrible, and then when I give you facts on why he wasn't a horrible president, then you start talking about his health like you're some sort of doctor that's given him, a personal physician that's given him an appointment. You know everything about his health as well. So I appreciate the phone call. I respectfully disagree with you.